Hey guys, Cecil here once again. I wanted to do a video today and talk about something that was brought to my attention this morning. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the CU podcast, it is a gaming and retro collecting podcast done by Ian and Pat the NES Punk. Pat will take snippets of his podcast and upload them to his YouTube channel, and that's where I kind of saw this. And the main reason I wanted to do a quick response to this is the fact that I guess you could say it happened in my backyard. Now, I may have not mentioned this in the past, or maybe I've kind of just casually mentioned it. I live in a state in the United States called Wisconsin. It's in the Midwestern region of the country. It's a nice area to live. I've lived here all my life. I grew up. This specifically occurred in a city about 3 hours south of where I live called Madison, which is the state capital of Wisconsin. Factoring in suburbs and everything, it's probably a city of about 500,000 to 750,000 people. So a decent sized town. You know, there's a big university there, the University of Wisconsin. So there's a lot of, people that live there, younger people. So there's a lot of retro collectors. There's a handful of retro gaming stores and things along those lines down there. I visited there from time to time. It's a nice city to visit, and I could see it potentially being a really cool area to live in. Where this kind of whole controversy begins is at a chain of basically, I guess you could generically call them junk stores or, resale shops. Called St. Vincent de Milo's. St. Vinny's is kind of the generic name we call it. It's very similar to like Goodwill and Savers. Basically, they take donations from people. If people have old clothes, any junk at home they don't want anymore, they donate it to these kinds of stores, and these stores will basically sift through it, find the stuff they want, price it, and put it out for sale. So basically, they get no cost for their inventory, so they make a decent amount of money. This specific one, St. Vinny's, is Catholic run, so a lot of what they get goes towards charity. All these stores are usually non-profit. Where what happens at a couple of these St. Vinny locations down in Madison, apparently twice a year. There are other St. Vinny's locations, not specifically in my city of Eau Claire, but in very smaller towns very near where I live. They don't do this sort of thing because had they done this, I probably would have possibly tried to take advantage of it. But what these specific couple of locations down in Madison do is basically twice yearly, over the handful of months prior to the sales, they accrue and get a lot of video game related donations. And then for one day, they get all the inventory and stuff gaming related they've accrued over the last 6 months and put it out for sale for the general public, kind of like a big one day flash sale. And these sales are generally well known in the area. What happened specifically last week that kind of caused a lot of controversy online, and I will post a link to the Reddit post, the CU podcast video, as well as this store's Facebook page. They're a retro store in the area called Video Game Exchange. I've heard of them, but I've never actually physically visited one of their locations. Apparently what some of their employees or owners have done, what they did last week before the sale, is they got in line very early, according to them maybe 9-10 hours. So that's pretty early in advance for any sort of big sale. That's Black Friday level getting in line. And what they do is they bring these gigantic tubs with them before the sales happen, and as soon as the store opens, they quickly rush in, grab as much gaming related crap as they can off the tables or wherever this stuff is, stuff it into their bins, and then they can quickly and casually kind of go to another part of the store and begin sifting through what the stuff they put in their bins and pull out the stuff they want, i.e. quote unquote the valuable stuff, and then the less desirable stuff they will take back to the table once they're done sifting through it and put it back on the shelf or the table for anybody else to look through. And that's kind of caused some controversy online for the fact that there is this video game store, their employees and owners are doing this sort of thing, and a lot of people feel it's quote-unquote scummy of these people to do this. Now, I've kind of read a lot of the arguments and everything, and I kind of see where both sides are coming from. St. Vinny's specifically doesn't have any policies that ban this sort of thing, and according to the people who work at Video Game Exchange and who own it, there are other resellers and people that do this sort of thing all the time. It's nothing new that's happened. And as long as St. Vinny's doesn't have any sort of rules that ban this sort of behavior or have any limit on the amount of stuff you can purchase, they, on paper, are well within their right to grab as much crap as they can, call dibs on everything, sift through what they want, pull it out, and then put everything back that they don't want to buy. That as a consumer, you have that right, assuming the store doesn't have specific rules. So that's more on St. Vinny's than it is Video Game Exchange. Another reason for their justification for doing it was the fact, they were there first. It's first come, first serve. If you would have gotten in line before us, you would have had the opportunity to do the same thing. So I get where they're coming from on that. But with that being said, hypothetically, to me, one of the first arguments of they were first in line is kind of a weak argument to me. And I'll kind of set up a scenario for you. Just say, hey, I found about this sale myself a few weeks in advance. I didn't know this sort of behavior happened. So I'm going to get in line really early because I want to get first, dibs on possibly some pretty good deals. And I may just have my backpack with me with my 3DS, something to drink just to kill time before the store opens, at midnight. It's midnight and the store's going to open up at 7 a.m. So say a couple hours after I get there at midnight, say at 2 a.m., these group of guys with these, bins, get in line behind me. And I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going, guys? What's going on? Are you here for the sale too? Some chit chats like, oh, you guys are here to buy some stuff. They're probably not going to let me know their plans. So I got these guys behind me with these huge bins that are probably just here to, get as much crap as they can. They're going to look through it normal, quote unquote normal. So hypothetically, 7 a.m. happens, the doors open, I get in there, I'm the first one there. I may at best, and not knowing this, have 10 to 15 seconds to maybe find a few items wherever the games are put before these guys behind me get to the shelving and start piling everything in. And then I see them doing that, I'm like, what the hell? I don't even have an opportunity, even being first in line, knowing these guys are doing this shit. Now, even being first in line, it's like, what the fuck is the point? If I have no opportunity, to look at anything, and these guys right behind me just piled all their shit in the tub, I'm like, I'm fucked. I've been here for, 8-10 hours or whatever, or midnight, 6 hours before the store opened, and I don't even have an opportunity because I didn't know these people did this. And on paper, well, now knowing about it, yes, I could do the same thing, bring a tub with me in advance and pile as much crap and do the same thing they are doing, but then I would be no better than a reseller, which is kind of where the bad PR comes from. And the other argument they have is, well, other people, do this. This is not a new thing. Well, that's fine and dandy, but being in the public eye and people knowing you are doing this, resellers in general do not have the best reputation in the retro collecting and gaming community these days. They're the ones that are, quote unquote, not making this hobby fun anymore. Now, I admittedly have bought a lot of crap in the last, 20 years or so. I've been seriously collecting, but to me, it's not fun anymore for a lot of these reasons and when these things go on. A lot of the stuff you see behind me, I bought 90% of it, in the last, 15 years before 2011, 2012, before prices started to really spike. And I'm kind of glad I got in on the early before stuff really got out of hand, just for the reasons of how much retro collecting has gone up in price in the last handful of years. For a lot of the reason, these resellers who even have no interest specifically in gaming, they're just in it to make a quick buck because they know what shit is worth, and they're going to throw it or flip it on eBay or Craigslist to try to make big profits off something that was sold cheap. Because these stores, these church-run basically shops don't a lot of the time don't have an idea what this stuff is worth. Goodwill and stuff has actually started to get a little bit better knowing what stuff is worth, and they'll actually take some more interesting donations and actually list it on their own auction sites, and more power to them. They have every right to do that. So, like I said, I guess at the end of the day, was Video Game Exchange in their right to do what they did? Yes. If St. Vinny does not have any specific rules stopping this sort of behavior, they were well within their right to do it. That being said, as a consumer and someone who can vote with my wallet, and this retro store being in the public eye now, and I know this behavior is happening, I may not go to your store now because my friends and I, admittedly, on occasion will take road trips to like some of the larger cities and stuff in the area in my region, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, Milwaukee, Chicago, Madison, and visit these sorts of stores to see what, game collecting and games we can find to add to our collections. But knowing you do this, and knowing this kind of scummy behavior, I guess if you want to call it that, is happening, I may vote with my wallet and not visit your store knowing you do this sort of thing, because this is the kind of behavior that just does not make retro collecting fun anymore. And that's, I guess, where I'm kind of coming from at the end of the day. You are more than well within your right to do this, but at the same time, you have to take whatever negative or bad potential PR comes of this from the retro collecting and gaming community, that they know you do this, because these are reasons, like I said, where it's not fun anymore for a lot of these reasons, and you're contributing to the problem of not having it be fun anymore, because you can't even remotely get a decent deal anymore unless you know flea markets and garage sales and stuff. You might occasionally get something these days, but it's not what it was even 5 or 10 years ago. And that's where I guess I'm coming from at the end of the day. And who knows, maybe your store, if you guys at Video Game Exchange see this, maybe you're going to get more people and traffic to your store, because even bad PR is still PR, and a lot more people are going to know about your store, and they may want to check you out. But at the same time, whatever bad PR you may potentially have to deal with now because of this whole situation, you put yourself in the public eye, people know you do it, and they have every right to call you out for this behavior and not shop at your store for this behavior. So that's kind of my 2 cents, guys. I'll post a link down below, like I said, to their Facebook page, the Reddit post, and the CU podcast video where I kind of learned about this. And I'll let you guys take a look at it. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Do you think it was okay for Video Game Exchange to do this? They were well within their rights? Or do you think it's not a good behavior for even a retro store like this in the public eye to be doing? Let me know what you think of this down in the comments below. Otherwise, you guys take it easy, and I'll see you next time.